Yeah, 100%. We normally spend 15 minutes chatting about tip at the start, but we'll leave that to later. We go straight into Limerick, Fintan. I suppose you said new faces that popped up. Mícheál Houlihan, we've both seen him probably at club level for Kilmallock, and he's been impressive. But like, by God, did he take his chance the other night? Even someone like Adam English coming in wouldn't have figured him to be in maybe that kind of engine room and maybe work as well as he did the other night. He definitely probably put his hand up as well. Shane O'Brien, as you said too, as well as obviously the big names. The likes of Hegarty was unstoppable at times the other night as well. Cian Lynch, we saw glimpses of, what Cian Lynch can do, but it's such a good sign of their strength in depth, isn't it, to have these new faces. And I know there was 5 or 6 kind of, familiar enough faces let go, I think, in recent weeks as well. And they have these new faces to drive the thing forward. And that's a very worrying thing for the Jason Pack, in the sense of they're not getting stale. These are all new guys coming in trying to stake a claim and, I suppose, raise standards even higher.
Yeah, and like, there's a point that I've thought, and no, I'm not saying this is a weakness in Limerick's side, but if you look at the starting 15, it hasn't changed much over the course of the All-Ireland winning. And a lot of it is based on the under-21 winners across 2015 and 2017. So a lot of that's the 26 to 28 age bracket now. So I have been kind of wondering the last maybe year or so. Obviously, they've been dominant, so maybe people are probably thinking this is maybe kind of an irrelevant point to make. But I'm just wondering who's the next generation that is coming. And I just wonder, is Kylie starting to think of that as well? When you look at, I would have seen them, and I know you were down there as well, in the Munster Senior Hurling League. Thought Fergal O'Connor was quite good cornerback. He was full back in the 20s last year. Shane O'Brien, as we said. So they're starting to try and bring guys through from the other 20s last year. They got to the other final. But I suppose, to pick up on a point you made, Houlihan is probably the one that stands out just on Saturday night, because I suppose there was 2 facets to his game. First of all, he had 3 points on the board from play within 7 minutes. And it was literally just his lateral running across the half-forward line. Clare couldn't really seem to get a handle on it, who was meant to be kind of picking him up, and he was getting into these pockets of space. And his striking is really, really good, as we both would have seen with Kilmallock. And then David Reedy went off in the 7th minute, and Aaron Gallen was involved Saturday night. Tom Morrissey's on the bench. Dermot Burns isn't there. Reedy goes off injured, so you're looking around going, who's going to be the free taker? But again, we would have seen him. Houlihan is brilliant at club level. I went back and I looked at it, like, he got 11 points in the 2021 Limerick County final, and he got 11 points against Middleton the following day in the Munster Club semi. So, that's, look, it is a step up, but that's a pretty elite level of club hurling that he's been playing at. And I mean, I was trying to check it out. Like, his underage career, he was under 21 in 2018 when they didn't win anything. I don't really have been able to kind of spot anything else that he kind of would have done. So maybe it's not as easy for him to make the launch pad, but he actually missed first 2 of his first 3 frees, actually. Not straightforward ones, but he did miss them. But after that, he potted absolutely everything else. And I think you pointed out on Twitter on Saturday night, and it struck me as well, like, the pass before English's assist for the goal was just the kind of a guy who was just, his confidence was just flying high at that stage. And maybe that goal kind of summed things up for Limerick in terms of his flick. It's English's run, and English was a guy I would have thought is just kind of an inside forward. But as you said, he was the guy Kylie turned to 8 minutes in to come into midfield and get involved in the midfield engine room. And then Donegal O'Dollig, who has played Limerick under 20, but I think really, to be honest, it's on the back of Mona Lean's form, winning the All-Ireland club title. He's after getting thrown into the senior fray. And he had missed a couple of chances, but in fairness, he took the goal well. So it is that extra layer. I think they'll probably be a little disappointed Fergal O'Connor had to go off with a head injury. I think they would have liked to have had a good look at him over the whole game. I think he looks a good prospect, but he was gone after half an hour. Kieran Barry was another player. So, and obviously then Shane O'Brien is probably different to Houlihan in the sense that he's his club mate, but I don't know about you, but he's the kind of guy I've been kind of hearing about for a while. I mean, he was in school last year, so he is one of the...
He's a big lad for his age, isn't he?
Unbelievable,
he's a big lad for his age, yeah.
I think he's one of the kind of precocious talents not saying he's going to be get to the level of Cian Lynch, but Cian Lynch is that kind of went straight from school, straight into the Limerick senior setup. The interesting quirk, obviously, with his father involved, is the S&C coach with Clare, and he said...
Yeah, did you see him in the huddle beforehand? Like, I just thought it was hilarious. He was the one doing the team talk. There was no other management in there, and, his young fella's about 60 yards away down the far end.
Yeah, I hadn't actually seen that part of it, but I just thought it was an interesting one. And then I was actually thinking, I was looking on the line, there's someone else on the sideline who would have had that experience in Alan Cunningham, who's with Limerick. He would have actually, when Aaron was breaking through, his son with Clare, he was with Offaly, I think, at the time, and it was a fairly important kind of a promotion playoff. And I think Aaron Cunningham was talking at the time about it, and then he said the father didn't tell him he was going in with Limerick, and he noticed him going out the door one night with the green. He looked at the bag or he looked at the top or something like that. And that's when he kind of found out he was gone in with Limerick, you know. But O'Brien looks superb, like, you know, he's just really lively. Kind of has an eye for a goal, and I think Limerick need this extra kind of a layer of options, you know. And obviously we can get to them maybe in a minute, but obviously the old guard, there were some pretty promising signs there in terms of their kind of early season form as well.
Big time. And it's funny, Galan isn't at the edge of the square at the moment, and so they've kind of almost I don't know, they've shifted their game plan a small bit, I think, as well. I don't think they play the ball into the inside line as much now, and they tend to shoot from maybe out the pitch. But I thought there was a massive contrast in tactically how the two teams were playing the other night. I thought Limerick were working the ball the whole time, and it was always head up, and it was trying to give the best ball. And if the ball was going inside, it was always a sympathetic ball inside. Whereas I don't know, I thought Clare were quite rudderless and kind of one-dimensional. I know they got a bit of joy off the Duggan flick down for the Galvin goal, but like the ball going into the forward line just wouldn't cut it, like until maybe David Reedy came on and showed a good bit of energy. But I thought there was a clear kind of clash in styles of how the two of them were playing. And I know there's more than one way to skin a cat, and the way to beat Limerick might necessarily be to play like them, but I just thought it was very one-dimensional in contrast. And you mentioned it briefly earlier, from a Clare point of view, like it would have been a really disappointing out, and obviously they drew with them, you know, 3 times last year. It wasn't until extra time that Limerick were able to pull away in the Munster final, and it was a bit of you'd have to say it was a bit of a no-show the other night, really.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was saying to someone afterwards, it was the greatest 6-point hammering I'd seen at the weekend, and we get into it, but there was a bit of a theme of that at the weekend, wasn't there? If you look at Kilkenny, Galway and Clare in particular, we're all losing heavily. In fairness to Galway, I suppose it was 14 men and they've been very competitive in the first half, so maybe it's a different type of a game. But all three kind of made it come back. You know, Kilkenny lost by 6, having been down by 12, I think it was. Clare, I think I had it here, the scoreline was, 56 minutes in, Tom Morrissey scores, it's 26 points to 1-9. And it felt like Limerick, you know, pulled up the handbrake a bit, a little bit at that stage, you know. Really obviously made a big difference. Aidan McCarthy, fairness to him, got a lot of points, and he was probably the best player on the day. But one of the things I noticed was the difference in the work ethic without the ball of the two respective forward lines. I mean, Clarefax coming out with the defence, particularly in the first half, were getting absolutely savaged in possession. Yeah. Peter Casey's hunger for that part of the game was unbelievable, I thought, you know. Obviously, he's kind of, if they kind of leave the two inside, he's the tip, you know, he comes out a little bit, you know. So Flanagan and O'Brien, especially O'Brien, were kind of urged to stay close to goal. But Casey looks so kind of hungry for that kind of work. Houlihan, in fairness, is getting stuck in. And obviously Hegarty was kind of his usual self, just all over the pitch.
He's got even deeper this year, Fintan, I think, isn't he? Like, he's down under 21, like, regularly. It's almost like he's starting moves back there now. It makes him even harder to mark. Makes him even harder to be man-marked, I'd say, as well.
This is Hegarty you're on about. Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, he's still getting through. I mean, he scored a point in the first half, which basically was in the back of a turnover. Clare getting caught coming out of bit of the defence after a short puck out, and he lashes in a ball that's basically just whistles over the crossbar, you know. So he looked in kind of really good shape.
Would have been goal. That could have been goal of the year if that had gone in. Yeah.
And like, I suppose you think about this time last year, it's the second game they lost to Galway. He got sent off. Look, it didn't matter by the end of the year. He was still absolutely sensational in the championship, but probably glad for him. He'll probably be glad himself that it's kind of a really, really strong kind of start to the season. But just what Kylie was saying afterwards, I think the third quarter was the thing. Given the standards that they're at, they would have been pretty disappointed. They only scored 6 points in the whole of the second half in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. As I said, in the first 20 minutes of the second half on Saturday night, they'd scored 10 points. So they put the game to bed. And I mean, from a Clare point of view then, I went back and I looked at the stats. Like, if you look back at last year's Munster final, the kind of absolute classic that it was. Jamie Flanagan scores 8 points in play. Clare kept him scoreless the other night. Galan isn't there. He scores 10. So that's 18 points you've kept out of the equation. But they still leaked 127. And at that, I mean, Limerick only scored 1-1 in the last 15 minutes. I mean, it was a very lifeless game, to be honest with you. You know, like, I was looking forward to it in terms of, I thought, kind of after what they served up last year, kind of near neighbours, you know, Saturday night, kind of nice weather and all that. You know, you good enough crowd in, 15,000 in fairness, you know, but it just never really got going. And I know, in fairness, Clare were without a few big names, but so were Limerick. But obviously, I suppose Clare, the importance of Conlon, Kelly, O'Donnell to Clare compared to I mean, Limerick, obviously, you know Mike Casey, you know Will O'Donoghue, you know Galan. Trying to think. Sorry, Tom Morrissey was started on the bench. Dan Morrissey actually was another player I thought of the older brigade. Looked really, really kind of just up for it. Like was really, really physical in defence, really kind of manning that. And then Hayes just came along with these kind of different efforts, different flashes of genius. He scored the second point of the game. And then he came out after half time and in 60 seconds scored 2 points, one off either side, And then like even Morrissey, like they bring on Tom Morrissey, established player, first 2 shots from play, puts them both over the bar, So it's just this ability to just kind of flick the switch and turn it on, And Clare couldn't cope. But yeah, it's 6 point hammering. I mean, it really was kind of bizarre when we were leaving, like the fact how was there 6 points in that,
Yeah, and Kylie almost has a stick to beat Limerick with now because of the fact that they probably didn't perform in the last 15 or 20 minutes.
And he referenced it straight away afterwards.
Yeah, that was all he was focusing on. It's almost like because he's not happy with 50 or 55 minutes. He's only happy with 75 to 80 minutes.
And even I tried to ask him about Houlihan, I was trying to say, I thought he was the story of the night, really, obviously. And the name is so synonymous with Limerick hurling, and I suppose he's a late bloomer, he's not one of these kind of identical Limerick hurlers who's won All Ireland 21s, been with Ardskull and just kind of rolled off almost the conveyor belt, And straight away he was like, look, he was one of a number of fellas who did well tonight. He did well, but can he do it again? That's the challenge. So straight away it's like, I'd say he got the RT man of the match. I don't know, did they get a little trophy? But I'd say once he got back to the dressing room, he'd have been told put that away. There's no sense of getting carried away with yourself.
Yeah, I think it's from the Brian Cody school. I think where he actually don't mention the player by name as well.
Yeah,
where he's just and you talk.
But it's so similar, isn't it? The traits.
Yeah, big time. That was the one thing I noticed. That Houlihan actually gave a good interview to RT after where he talked about how enjoyable the setup was, and he said, it's tough, but it's really enjoyable. And I suppose lads like that breathing new energy into a setup are great as well. Just fly through.